How are you ding dong diddly doing there, Gamerinos? Hope you're having a flanderific day. We're gonna keep this kind of a brief episode if we can, because I am trying to, watch Otto, who's back on streaming for like the first time in a million years, and also just I'd like to, since it's kind of a little bit late since I was watching Otto previously, I want to make sure I've got enough time to do a Batman stream tonight. So I think I'm going to talk about something, and then we're going to watch like 1 or 2 short videos. So I finished up the Book of Judges today, and then I finished Ruth, and I am now in 1 Samuel. And 1 Samuel talks about how, well, there's a couple of different stories in there, but I haven't finished it yet either, so there's probably more. But it talks about how there's this woman, and she gives birth to a son, and since she was having problems giving birth, and this one was like, she got pregnant, she decided to give him to God, basically. And he becomes a priest. And that's Samuel, right? Wow, 1 Samuel, wow. That's the guy. Look. So, Samuel is super faithful, and everyone around him is not so faithful. Not so holy, not so righteous. So, the people of Israel want a king. So God shows him is like kind of a Giga Chad from what I gather. He's like super tall, he's super strong. And he seems like a good person, when you first meet him, he seems like a good person. He's going out trying to find his dad's donkeys. It says asses in the book. It's funny. He's out looking for ass. So anyway, he's looking for these donkeys. And then he comes upon Samuel, and he wants to go ahead and talk to Samuel for some reason or another. Maybe just to find the best way home, I think. Either that, or like, see if he has seen where the donkeys are. So anyway, Samuel's like, alright, come have dinner with me. Oh, and by the way, you're king. Yeah, I'm anointing you king. So he becomes the king, and it kind of goes off the rails pretty quickly. He goes and he's getting ready. He's having all these successful battles, but then he is, I think, surrounded, and he's waiting on Samuel to come. Oh, I just realized we want to... So he is waiting on Samuel to come and do a sacrifice, and to see if they're gonna win the battle. But he gets a little scared and a little impatient because Samuel is late. So he ends up doing a sacrifice himself. And then Samuel shows up and he's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what is wrong with you? Why are you doing this? This is my job. That's a no-no. You're not allowed to do that. So he's like, sorry, I was a little scared and whatever. And then some stuff happens in between this, but it's for the sake of what I want to talk about, it's not really that important. It definitely is important, to not only the story, but there's a lot of good, like, moral lessons in there as well. But like I said, it's not really important to what I'm going to be talking about, so we're going to skip over it. He ends up destroying this entire city, and God is like, all right, you're going to go ahead and kill everything, leave nothing. Don't take anything from the city, destroy it all. So Saul. Have I been saying Samuel instead of Saul? Whatever. Saul ends up, at any point where I'm obviously talking about the king who did something that was unrighteous, is definitely Saul and not Samuel. Samuel seemed to be pretty cool. But yeah, so Saul and his men end up taking the best of all of the animals, because they're going to sacrifice them to God. And Samuel shows up and is like, what's going on here? Why do I hear animals? And Saul's like, yeah, we killed everything. Oh yeah, well that's what he says first. We killed everything, and nothing is left. And so Samuel's like, well, why am I hearing why am I hearing all of these animals? And he's like, oh, well, you see, we didn't destroy those. We didn't kill all those because we want to sacrifice them to God. So obviously God and Samuel are pretty not happy at Saul. And they end up, I think it's Samuel who says this. I can't remember if it's Samuel or God. But anyway, regardless, they say well, what do you think is more important? Giving a super fine sacrifice or just obeying? And obviously it's obeying, but I just wanted to bring this story up because it's a very human story. It's very applicable to us right now. Obviously we're not physically sacrificing anything or anything like that, but there have definitely been times where, and myself very included in this, where we will go, I know that technically the Bible, technically God says this, but I can do this one thing here, and it's gonna be even better. There's a natural urge for us to think that we can do things better, but one of the whole main points of the Bible is that we can't do it better, and that we need God, we need Jesus, and doing things our own way is not going to end well. So I don't know, that's just kind of because we've been there, let's see, maybe you did something that you knew was wrong, right? And you're like, well, I know that I did this wrong, but I'm going to do this right. I'm going to do this good thing here to extra make up for it, And it's but that's not the way that works. It doesn't, God's not going to go oh, congratulations. Yeah, I forgot about this other thing that you did because you did, this bad thing that you did because you went and you did something good. Like, again, it doesn't work that way. So, yeah, something for you to think about and try to apply to your life. Is what I'm doing, is that what God says I should be doing? Or am I trying to like win extra favor when in reality it's not doing that at all? Because again, you should want to do something. You should want to do what's right, but you should also want to do what's right for the right reasons, if that makes sense. So we're gonna go ahead and watch this short video here by Testify, and then I am going to end stream. How am I doing on time? Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I stretched that out pretty well. Yeah, that's called You're Not Supposed to Exist If Atheism is True by Testify.
Let's talk about something so obvious we miss how weird it really is. You're conscious. You're not just reacting to stuff like a rock rolling downhill. You're aware. You experience the world. Think about your future. You worry about finals. You wonder whether this video will change your mind. You know that you're you. Here's the problem. According to atheistic naturalism, none of this was supposed to happen. On naturalism, everything starts from unconscious matter, just particles bouncing around in a godless void. That's the foundation. No mind, no meaning, no purpose, just atoms and physics. So here's the question. Why would that kind of universe randomly cough up you? Consciousness isn't just one more physical process to throw under a microscope. It's not like digestion or photosynthesis. It's first-person experience. And no matter how many neurons you map or circuits you model, you'll never get I feel sad or I love my mom out of electricity. There is a huge chasm between firing neurons and feeling anything at all.
Yeah, they make like AI and shit, but AI doesn't feel. You know? If it really was as simple as, oh, it's just a bunch of neurons or whatever, it's just like a computer basically, why doesn't AI feel? Like really feel, really experience anything other than what they're programmed to? Like, again, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Because, well, from that point of view, for it to make sense, for consciousness to make sense, it only really works if you have another conscious being setting it all into motion. That's where God comes in.
Even atheist philosophers admit this is a massive problem. Colin McGinn famously asked, how did evolution convert the water of biological tissue into the wine of consciousness? So let's be real, if naturalism is true, if all that exists fundamentally is non-conscious matter governed by blind physical laws, then consciousness is not something that you would expect. You might expect complex behavior, information processing, maybe even robots that pass Turing tests. But subjective experience, the inner what it's like to be you, has no place in that picture. It doesn't follow from mass, charge, or spin. Nature can simulate intelligence without consciousness, so the emergence of minds with first-person awareness looks, from the standpoint of naturalism at least, deeply anomalous. But if the foundation of reality is a personal mind, then the appearance of finite minds is not only unsurprising, it's what we would expect. This is what philosophers call an inference to the best explanation. We're not just asking how consciousness works. We're asking, given that it exists, which worldview does a better job making sense of it? On theism, consciousness fits naturally. On atheistic naturalism, it's a mystery bordering on a miracle. Now, some people will push back and say, you're just invoking God because you don't understand consciousness. That's just God of the gaps. But that misses the point completely. This isn't about what we don't know, it's about what we do know. Consciousness is real. It's not a blank in our knowledge. It is a full-blown data point. And the question is, which worldview actually predicts the data? Appealing to God here isn't filling a gap. It's just recognizing that theism gives us a world where minds make sense, where they're actually expected. Naturalism, on the other hand, gives us physics, particles, equations, and somehow that's supposed to spit out subjective experience. That's not a pathway, that's a leap. And while critics throw around God of the gaps, they quietly lean on their own version. Naturalism of the gaps. They have no mechanism, no model, just blind faith that science will one day stumble into a solution. Now, let's map out some of the main options. First, there's reductive materialism that says consciousness just is brain activity. Neurons fire, and poof, experience. But that's just correlation masquerading as explanation. Why should electricity be conscious of anything? Why isn't your brain just a cold, unconscious calculator? Strong emergence says consciousness pops out when matter gets complex enough, but that just labels the problem without solving it. Why does complexity create awareness at all? And if it adds something new, like mental properties with causal power, then you've left physicalism behind. Panpsychism says all matter has some degree of consciousness. That avoids the something from nothing problem, but under atheism, why would a mindless universe be made of proto-minds? That kind of reality fits way better under theism, where consciousness is there from the start. So when you're comparing worldviews, the one that makes the data more probable is the better explanation. And when it comes to consciousness, theism just isn't a placeholder. It's the best match.
All right. So thank you if anyone watched this. Thank you to the YouTube crowd who's going to like and subscribe. And I will see you in the next one, which maybe in 30 minutes. I don't know. I'll have to see. So yeah. Bye-bye.